Morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the book of Hosea as part of our larger study of the writing prophets who wrote to the northern kingdom. We're in chapter 8. We're right in the middle of this section, which is the main part of the book of Hosea, which is God talking, bearing his soul, making his case, opening his heart, pronouncing judgment, and and voicing his regret, confessing his continued love, and looking forward to some sort of redemption with a remnant. Um, and in chapter 7, which we dealt with last time, just the deep sadness and regret at what was happening. Um, you know, it's like that. Chapter 7 reminds me of a lot of that Elvis Costello song, Allison. I can't stand to see you this way. And God is almost expressing that. The bad things are already happening. The end game is already going on, and they don't know it yet. Um, uh, that regret, that sadness, is more anger. God, as the wronged uh, husband in this relationship, has all kinds of emotions, and he has throughout. We've seen Hosea live this, and now God is expressing it. And sometimes it's sadness, and sometimes it's tenderness, and sometimes it's anger, and it's anger here. Um, Put the trumpet to your lips like an eagle. The enemy comes against the house of the Lord, but they have transgressed my covenant and rebelled against my law. They cry out to me, my God, we of Israel know you. Israel has rejected the good. The enemy will pursue him. They have set up kings, but not by me. They have appointed princes, but I didn't know it. With their silver and gold they have made idols for themselves, that they may be cut off. He has rejected your calf, O Samaria, saying, my anger burns against them. How long will they be incapable of innocence? Far from Israel is even this. A craftsman made it, so it is not God. Surely the calf of Samaria will be broken to pieces, for they sow the wind and they reap the whirlwind. The standing grain has no heads, it yields no grain. Should it yield, strangers would swallow it up. Israel is swallowed up. They are now among the nations, like a vessel in which no one delights, for they have gone up to Assyria like a wild donkey all alone. Ephraim has hired lovers, even though they hire allies among the nations. Now I will gather them up, and they will begin to diminish because of the burden of the king of princes. Since Ephraim has multiplied altars for sin, they have become altars of sinning for him. Though I wrote for him 10,000 precepts of my law, they are regarded as a strange thing. As for my sacrificial gifts, they sacrifice the flesh and then they eat it. But the Lord has taken no delight in them. Now he will remember their iniquity and punish them for their sins. They will return to Egypt. For Israel has forgotten his Maker and built palaces, and Judah has multiplied fortified cities. But I will send fire on its cities, that it may consume its palatial dwellings. Put a trumpet to the lips, and then the eagle or the vulture. It could be translated either way. And we can think of the caw of the eagle sounding like a trumpet, announcing something important happening, announcing judgment. Eagles and vultures can be translated by the same term because they are both carrion eaters. Um, Eagles also hunt, but they do eat carrion as well. And so there is the sense, even with an eagle in the Old Testament, not for us nowadays, but even with an eagle in the Old Testament, there's a sense that there's a corpse, perhaps. And if you translate a vulture, we clearly get that sense that there's a corpse. There's a corpse that the birds are going to announce, and the birds are going to dismember. Um, we get the picture that there is real syncretism going on, that in the northern kingdom, and this is in uh, um, um, the book of Second Kings, First Kings chapter 12. You can read about the setting up of the new religion in Samaria that Jeroboam the first didn't want people to go back to Jerusalem to worship, so he established a bull cult, worshiping the bull there in Samaria, and built a shrine there. And so the people were doing that. So your calf, the mention of the calf of Samaria being destroyed, it's recalling all that, and also recalling how God judged the people when they worshiped the calf in the wilderness. That's all being brought up as well. But they're still saying they know him. They're still making their sacrifices, although they treat God's commands like they don't know what they are. Like, what is this? It's some new thing. I'm not aware of any of this. But they're still trying to pretend that they're holding on to Yahweh at the same time their real devotion is to Baal. And so he mentions that. He talks about them as a wild donkey all alone. Um, and running around different places. He talked about the dove, the silly dove in the last chapter. Now the wild donkey all alone, running back and forth, and he communicates that these people you've hired to protect you are the ones who are going to devour you. Um, you've built your altars for sin, and now you are an altar for sinning, and you are going to be punished. He talks about them going to back to their maker, or excuse me, returning to Egypt. Israel has forgotten his maker and built palaces. The whole idea of the builder, the maker, I made you. You're making idols. Those aren't gods. They're stuff you made. You're the stuff that I made. I'm the maker. I'm your God. When he says return to Egypt, he doesn't. This is not historically inaccurate or a bad prophecy, because they didn't go back to, well, some of them fled to Egypt, or at least some of Judah fled to Egypt, but they went into Assyrian captivity. But Egypt means captivity, enslavement. You're going to be going into enslavement. And he'll use that phrase again, and that's what he means by that. And there's also in chapter 8, verse 14, something that he's mentioned before, and that is the contamination of the southern kingdom, Judah, with the same idolatry. And there's judgment on the fortified cities of Judah as well. And all of this is fulfilled with the Assyrian invasion in 722 that carried the north into captivity and that destroyed Judah all the way to the walls of the city of Jerusalem when Hezekiah was king. It happened exactly as God said it would. Okay, we're going to look at chapter 9, begin looking at chapter 9 tomorrow, next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.